ho, ho, ho. Hello, my merry friends. How are you? And welcome to Santa Has a Podcast. Yes. And this week, what we're going to do is tell you a little bit of a story on how I became Santa Claus. We'll talk about my magical beginnings and how believing is powerful, which is very important for all of you, and even answer some of your questions, because I know some of you have written some questions and some of you actually called up and gave us some little audio questions. So we'll answer some of those. And I'm trying to think how we can do this. Let's slide into it like a penguin on peppermint, okay? Before we jump in, though, we have one thing we have to follow up on. Remember last week at the end, I gave you a riddle? Yes. Do you remember what the riddle was? I wanted you to figure out what the answer was. So let's do that. Let's have a little merry moment. Look back on that riddle and see if you have the right answer, okay? Here's the riddle. Remember it. I shine at night and sit on top. I'm bright and pointy. I never stop. A twinkle high above the tree. What could I possibly be? Did some of you guess? You think you got the answer? Well, the answer is, I'm a star. Yes, it's the star on top of your tree at Christmas. Yes. How many of you got the answer right? Oh, congratulations. That is wonderful. Oh, it's so good that you knew the answers, okay? Well, we're going to have another riddle at the end of this little visit on the podcast today, and you can do the guessing again for the next week, okay? But I love a good riddle, and all of you got it right. You're clever little cookies. You really are, okay? Now let's jingle into this week's fun Christmas facts, okay? And like I said, one of the things we were going to talk about is, and what I wanted to talk about was how I became Santa Claus. Where did I come from? How did all of this begin? Well, to do this, we have to go back hundreds and hundreds of years, back to St. Nicholas. I'm a descendant of St. Nicholas. There have been many, many Santas through the years that have done all of the work that we do at Christmas. But it all started even before Christmas with St. Nicholas. And he was a very fortunate person. He inherited some money from family, and he decided instead of spending the money on himself, he would help others. And he would also do it very special. He would do it secretly. He wouldn't tell anybody what he's doing. So if somebody needed some new shoes or new clothes, he would go buy the new shoes and the new clothes, and then at nighttime deliver them to him, and as a surprise. And nobody knew where the shoes or the clothing came from, you know. And Nicholas liked doing that. That was his special way of doing things for others, you know. And he would do this all of the time. Maybe they needed to have a cow. Yeah, the family needed to have milk. He would go buy a cow and give them a cow. But they didn't know it came from him. Very, very secretly. There's even a story of how he helped out a father with 3 daughters. And the 3 daughters all wanted to get married. But back, hundreds of years ago, in order to get married, you had to have a little bit of money to bring to the wedding, for your family. You started your new family. And the girls didn't have any money. Their father didn't have the money to help them. So Nicholas said, I'll help them. And he took a couple gold coins and he wrapped them up in a little piece of cloth, and he went to the house dark at night and threw it through a window. And in the morning, one of the girls found the money, and now she had the money to get married. And each time her sisters got ready to possibly get married, Nicholas did the same thing. He went back and repeated, and he put some money in a little cloth and threw it through the window, and thus in the morning they found the gold coins. Now the legend is that one of the times he threw that money through the window, it ended up getting caught in the laundry. Yeah, it got into a stocking hanging on a line. Thus, the idea of giving gifts and putting them inside a stocking began. Now, all of this is all legend and story, but it's so magical, it's so perfect, and it's so wonderful. Anyway, Nicholas, of course, continued giving away all of his money, and to where he had no more money. But also along the way, he started teaching other people about secret giving, how they could do special things for their neighbors and their friends and their children and relatives. And by giving the gifts to them secretly was a lot of fun. Now, again, through the years, after Nicholas, the other Santas came along, and as Nicholas and his legends traveled for different countries, his name changed. In Italy, he was called Babbo Natale. In France, he was Père Noël. In the Dutch countries, he was Santa Claus. And in each of those countries, he would be doing the gift giving and doing things special. And eventually, all of that became special giving to children, leaving them little treats. Sometimes the children would put out stockings. Sometimes they would put out their shoes. In fact, in the Dutch communities, the children would put their shoes out at night. And in the morning, there'd be a gift in their shoes. I remember carving a little wooden boat for a little boy one time because that's what he wanted. He wanted a little boat for Christmas. So again, that was a special way of gift giving. And again, Santa Claus evolved when we went to the Nordic countries, went up to Norway and Finland and Sweden and Denmark and all of those countries. Well, they got around with reindeer. The reindeer would pull sleds. And eventually, Santa found out that some of those reindeer, if they were fed the right oats, could fly. And so Santa inherited reindeer in the Nordic countries. Yes. And then all of that, of course, moved across the continents and across the oceans to the Americas. And in the United States, they actually evolved it to where they had, instead of Santa Claus, Santa Claus. So a lot of different names. But no matter what the names are, it was all about giving, all about bringing joy to others and having a lot of fun at Christmas. And again, St. Nicholas, and now my job as Santa is I need to also remind you of how you can give and how you can do special things to help others. Sometimes you can even do it secretly. So again, that's a little bit about how Santa became who he is today and how I got to do things. Along the way, of course, there's lots and lots of stories of how the elves have helped me and they make the toys, how Mrs. Claus made me this beautiful red suit that I wear at Christmas, you know, and somewhere along the line, how cookies and milk became very popular on Christmas Eve. Again, it's all these wonderful things. And, some people wondered about my sleigh and reindeer. It always wasn't a sleigh and reindeer. Sometimes I rode a donkey. Sometimes I might ride a big white horse. Sometimes I would arrive by boat. It was always different depending on what country you lived in. You know, so it's great. By the way, you know about my red sleigh, right? I fly all over the world in the red sleigh. Do you know the number 2 item I get to ride on? It's also red. It's also big. It's a fire truck. Yes. The firemen are some of my best friends, and whenever I need a ride somewhere, they'll give me a ride in the fire truck. Sometimes I can't use the sleigh, so I have to fly, down to an airport, and the firemen pick me up in a fire truck, and they take me somewhere. And sometimes at Christmas, I might come and visit you in your own community, and instead of having the reindeer and sleigh, I'll come on a fire truck. So again, a big red fire truck is the next closest thing to my sleigh. So again, lots of different things that I have fun with. Well, those are fun facts all about Santa, and maybe I'll give you a few more as we talk in this podcast. Now, whether you call me Santa or Saint Nick or Père Noël or Bobo Natale or any of the other things, I'm still your jolly gift giver, and that's my job is helping getting gifts. And so I'll be talking about that a lot, and of course, you may have questions too about those gifts and how I can give and things like that. So you can go to Santa as a Podcast and send me a note. Is that good? Okay. Right now, why don't we zip over to Candy Cane Square and the latest information from Chatter Snowglitz, our correspondent. Chatter, take it away.
Thanks, Santa. Well, it's snowflakes and sleigh bells over here. It's Chatter Snowglitz reporting live from Candy Cane Square, where the snow is fresh, the cocoa's warm, and the holiday magic is everywhere. Let's see what's happening today. Big news, you guys. Santa's sleigh just passed its 1 million mile maintenance check. Wow! Santa's sleigh is going strong. That's a lot of miles. And proof of the power of Christmas magic. From the elf discussion room, the elves voted for new uniform colors, and I hear that sparkle blue is trending. From Mrs. Claus's cottage, she wanted to share the Christmas joy of Christmas cookies, so she just finished a new project of writing her very own book, Cookies Around the World. And from the Cookie Test Lab itself, a new batch of peppermint frosting just launched and is now being served on sugar cookies in Elf Cafe number 3. Don't miss out. Reporting live with gumdrops on the ground and cheer in the air, it's Chatter Snoglets jingling out. Back to you, Santa.
Thank you, Chatter. Okay, now everybody, I want you to relax a little bit. Grab a frosty lemonade. Get yourself a beach chair because it's now time for a very, very special story. Okay, this is how I became Santa Claus. Okay, I told you a little bit about how St. Nicholas started, and then different Santas have done it over the years, over the centuries. But how did I end up getting to do this? Well, a lot of this began, let's see, how many years? 200, almost 200 years I've been doing this. It's a lot of work. But again, it wasn't always this way. We started way back, there used to be a thing called the Civil War. And even before the Civil War, there was a big poem called The Visit from St. Nicholas. Visit from St. Nicholas was written by Clement Moore over 200 years ago. And it told a story about how Santa got into a house. Well, that was when I was first starting. And he wrote the whole story out, explaining how I arrived at the house, how I landed on the rooftop, how I came down the chimney, how I had 8 reindeer. And he actually told everybody the names of my reindeer. Until then, nobody knew the names of my reindeer. But he put it right in the poem on Dasher and Dancer and Prancer and Vixen, Comet and Cupid and Donder and Blitzen. All those names in there and everything. So again, we had all this going on and how I delivered the present. And he also told everybody my secret of how I got up and down the chimney, laying a finger aside of my nose. That came from Italy. That came from a lady called La Befana. She taught me how to go up and down chimneys. Babushka, another lady who was a good witch up in Russia, she did the same thing. And there was a neat way to getting up and down a chimney. The big problem, of course, is sometimes you get a little soot and dirt on your clothes, but it was a lot quicker than trying to jump off the roof and get down to the front door and go into the house. And, going up and down the chimney was a real fast way of doing it. So I started doing that. So that was 200 years ago. And then we move along, and I'm delivering toys, and people found out that I had to move somewhere. I had to find a place of operation. So we moved the operations to the North Pole. It was a great place to work from because we could see everything all over the world from up there. Look down on all the children, see who was naughty, see who was nice. And it was very quick for delivering toys and gifts and stuff because we could go to any part of the world very quickly from the top of the world. So again, just a great, great thing to do. So now I'm at the North Pole, and of course, nobody can find me there. Nobody ever comes up to the North Pole. So it was a great place to, I hate to say hide, but if I'm away from everybody, we can concentrate on the work on hand. And the work during the rest of the year is what? Making toys. Yes, the toys that we get to bring to all of you. So the North Pole was a great place to work from. So I worked from up there, and I could check on everybody. And, of course, through the years, we added telephones and other ways to communicate. And, sometimes I would make visits to department stores and shopping centers, and people would get to see me there. But, my suit wasn't always red either. In the early years, over 200 years ago, I might wear a dark brown robe or a purple robe or a blue robe, different colors, And it wasn't until about 1880. Santa's getting confused on his numbers here. I have to remember sometimes. 1880 is when we started wearing the red suit. And that was because Mrs. Claus thought the red suit was the best way to have me, be seen by everybody. Also, when I'm in the workshop, when I'm working around the North Pole, they could easily spot me no matter where I was. So the red suit with my red cap. In fact, here's my red cap now. See, I've got my red hat right here. I can put this on. And no matter where I was at the North Pole, this red hat, I was about a foot taller, maybe 2 feet taller than all the elves. You could tell where Santa was. So they could all see where I was and what I was doing. So the red hat became my trademark around the North Pole. And my trademark just about anywhere I went. So again, it makes it kind of neat to have that. Now that was all part of why I had the red suit. Now I had the sleigh and I had the reindeer and I had the red suit and I was able to go up and down chimneys, but I needed more help. I was carving little wooden boats and trying to make little dollies, and Mrs. Claus was trying to help me make little Raggedy Ann dolls and things like that, and we needed help. And one day we found the elves. And the elves were magical people. They came from the Nordic countries, from Norway and Finland and Sweden and Denmark and Copenhagen, all those places there. And the elves were magical. They could make clothes, they could make shoes, and they could make toys. And they joined us at the North Pole, and we started building factories and places for them to make. Actually, it was shops at first, little wooden shops. But we made shops and made toys and stuff. And now it's like a factory. We make all kinds of things. Make all the different types of toys you know. And every year, the elves get more inventive and more creative. I mean, look at today. They've got me doing this podcast because they know how to play with computers and electronics and microphones and all kinds of stuff. The elves are very, very creative. I try to be creative. I mean, the most creative thing I think I've created recently was the photobomb. Yeah. You know what that is? That's when you're taking a picture with your friends and I sneak up behind you and go, peekaboo. And you know what the elves invented recently that's magical? Actually, it's been a few years now, but it's the most magical gift that they ever created. It's called the gift card. Yeah, that little plastic gift card, because they found out if they gave me hundreds of gift cards, it was a light load in the sleigh, a lot smaller than all the big packages. So gift cards became a handy way for Santa to bring Christmas joy to you and have a lighter load in the sleigh. So again, magic is always kind of neat. Anyway, the elves discovered me, or I discovered the elves. I don't know which way, who discovered who first, but we formed a great partnership. And they do so wonderful work. They're very hardworking. They're dedicated. And now they even come to your homes and stay with you. Because, we have elves in different sizes. I mean, they call me elfish sometimes, but I'm, 5'6". Then we have elves that are 3 foot, about yay high, okay? And then we have the little elves that are only about a foot tall, and those are the elves that are usually checking on you and reporting back to us up at the North Pole on whether you've been naughty or nice. Do you have an elf in your home? Yeah, they're very good. But remember, you're not supposed to touch them, okay? Don't want them to lose their magic, But their elf can report back to me and tell me what's going on. Hopefully, they don't get into mischief. I have gotten some reports back from a few parents where the elves have got into mischief. Like they've dumped out the flour on the kitchen floor and made snow angels out of flour. Or maybe you came downstairs in the morning and found out that they'd taken a whole drawer full of sticky pads and put them all over the cabinets, sometimes even spelling their name out on the cabinet. The little elves do all kinds of fun stuff. I think they get a little bored sometimes. But anyway, they do report back to me telling me on whether you're naughty or nice, and so that makes a great operation there. And then besides making toys, there are a lot of elves that take care of the operations of the North Pole. Have you ever had it where, Daddy takes care of things around the house? Daddy mows the lawn, or Daddy fixes this, or Daddy does that. Mommies, do a lot of cooking and do laundry. Sometimes they trade places, though. I've seen mommies mow the lawns. I've seen daddies do laundry. It just depends on what needs to be done, but they all work very hard. Well, we have elves at the North Pole that do the same thing. Some of them take care of the maintenance of the buildings. If a hinge on a door gets broken, they fix the hinge. If something needs painting, they paint it. And sometimes they help me out. I usually try to take care of my own stuff. I mean, I like to polish my shoes and things like that. But sometimes some elves will come as a favor to me, and they'll surprise me and polish my boots for me. They do a lot of wonderful things. So, again, it's part of the magic. And we work together to make the North Pole a very special place. And we have one mission, one goal. We are there for the children. Now, the children are all ages, but we are there for the children. We want to make sure you're taken care of, that you have a wonderful Christmas, that you have joy in what you're doing, and that we get you the gifts that you want for Christmas. So that's our number one mission. We are there for the children. And we try to make it very, very special for all of you. Believing is something that your heart does. And it's not just your head. Believing is something that comes from the heart. And we want you to believe in Santa. We want you to believe in the elves and all the magic and everything that we do. And sometimes it's the belief that creates the magic. And also part of that belief and the magic helps our spirit. And I mentioned the spirit meter in our last podcast, and we're going to talk about it a little later, because we want your belief and your happiness about Christmas and everything to be part of the spirit that we need for our spirit meter. And that's why it's good. Now, I know some of you are saying, well, I don't know, Santa, if I really believe in you. Well, I believe there's magic, okay? And I want you to believe in the magic. I believe in kindness. You know what kindness is, right? Doing things for others. That's part of the magic, okay? And it's good enough for me. Everyone believes in things. If you came to me and said, Santa, my friends told me that you're not real, I would say, wait a minute. I feel like Santa. I mean, the beard is real. I feel real. Are you real? And I know you're real. If you're real, I've got to be real. Part of what we do with Christmas is believing. And there's a joy and a magic of believing. And sometimes if you don't believe, I hate to say it, but maybe all you're going to get for Christmas is underwear. Well, sometimes the elves tell me, I had the elves one time tell me that I had a warehouse full of yellow and green socks. So some of the kids that didn't believe, guess what? That Christmas they got yellow and green socks. Because they didn't believe in toys and gifts, we just gave them yellow and green socks and wished them a Merry Christmas. You don't want yellow and green socks, do you? No, I know. You want something special for Christmas, okay? And that's what believing is all about. So believe in Christmas. And by the way, the more you believe, the higher the spirit meter goes. And we want to have everybody believing and doing joy for that, okay? So we believe in magic. We believe in kindness. And belief gives power to hope, wonder, and kindness. And those are all things we need to believe. And one last thing I want to mention. When I work with all of my elves, I think I mentioned it a little bit ago, but I'm going to mention it again. We are here for the children. That's what we do. Everything we do is for you, the children, and we want you to have fun. And even, I know you may have a parent watching you right now who's watching this little video saying hi to me. Sometimes I look at them and think that they're kids too, okay? Because all the people in the world are my children. I want them all to believe. I want them all to have a wonderful Christmas, a wonderful holiday. So I love remembering how I got here and everything I'm doing, and I want to thank you for listening to my talk about all of this and everything. By the way, you can also find some books and things like that. We'll tell you how Santa, became what he did. I had lots of jobs before I became Santa. I cleaned chimneys, and I delivered mail, and I worked at a zoo, and I did all kinds of things that learned how to do all the things that I do at the North Pole. So a lot of different jobs, all to become who I am today, Santa Claus. Well, right now it's time to head over to Rudolph, and Rudolph has some jingle jokes. So, okay, take it away, Rudolph.
Well, I'm ready, Santa. Here I go. The first one is, what do snowmen eat for breakfast? Frosted Flakes. Okay, and here's another one. Why did Santa go to music school? Well, it was so you could improve your rap skills. Yeah, are you a rapper?
Oh, Rudolph, those jokes really slayed me. I love hearing all those things. Well, right now it's time to peek into the mailbag and check out Mailbox Magic. We've got all kinds of letters and notes from all of you. And let's check the first one today. This is from Mia. Mia is 7 years old, and she's writing me a letter, and she mentions her little brother in it. Let's see. My brother says, you are not real. He does? Oh, my goodness. But he also thinks that broccoli is candy, okay? She says, I believe in you, and would you bring my brother some socks and bring me a puppy? She says, hugs and marshmallow, Mia. Oh, Mia, that is a wonderful little letter. I appreciate it. Your brother needs to believe in me. Remember, if you don't believe in me, you don't receive. I mean, you mentioned giving him socks. If he doesn't believe in me, that may be all he gets is socks. And I'm sure he might like to have something else. Okay? And broccoli is candy? Well, guess what? Broccoli is good for you. And if he likes broccoli and thinks it's candy, I think that is great because it's got iron and it's good for you. Okay? So you need to eat your broccoli. And, of course, you would like a puppy. Well, I'll see if I can do something about a puppy. But you have to remember, Santa's magic is toys, okay? So a lot of times when I bring a puppy, it's a stuffed puppy. It's a stuffed animal, a pillow pal puppy, things like that. I usually leave real live puppies up to the parents and the family to bring. So maybe if you're ready for a puppy, here's what I'll do. I'll leave you a collar or some sort of puppy toy, and then you and your family, you go find the puppy that you want, because that puppy is now going to become a member of your family, and you're all going to love that puppy, okay? Is that a deal? Okay, great. Oh, by the way, and thank you for the hugs and marshmallows. Next, our letter is from Leo. Leo is 5 years of age, and Leo has got a very unique question. His is, I saw a reindeer at the zoo. I named him Kevin. Do you have a Kevin? If not, can I send you mine for Christmas practice? Well, Leo, thank you very, very much. You know, yes, we do have, well, you named him Kevin. I think his real name is Leland or Leamida. Okay, one of those names. You named him Kevin. But guess what? I have reindeer all over the world. You know about the reindeer, the main team of 8 that pull the sleigh, and Rudolph, right? But what happens when one of the reindeer get tired? I need to give them a break. So I stop in at the zoo, and I might pick up Kevin or one of the other reindeer to give a break to Dasher or Dancer. And we'll go off for an hour or so, and we'll come back, put Kevin back in the zoo, and Dasher and Dancer will join me, and we'll take off again. So I need those extra reindeer all over the world at different zoos to help me out. So again, thank you, Leo, for that wonderful question. What's your favorite question? You know, if you have one, you can send us to it here at Santa as a Podcast, and if we get it, we'll try to answer it for you, okay? Okay, now that we got those out of the way, now we've got to check. We have some audio recordings. Some of you, when you went to the website, you left a message, and we have that recording here. So let's hear the first recording. I need one of the elves back there. Will you hit the button there for me? Okay, thank you. Go ahead. Let's hear it. What's the question?
What's your favorite part of living in the North Pole?
What's my favorite part about living at the North Pole? Well, first of all, I think the most special part of being at the North Pole is being able to be with my lovely wife, Mrs. Claus. We have a wonderful time. We love the North Pole. We love the way the elves and all the people up there have welcomed us and make us feel so much at home. And it is our home now, and we love doing all the different things there, and the cold weather is beautiful. But, of course, we do travel a little bit. So we don't always stay at the North Pole. Sometimes we'll go to the warmer climates. Mrs. Claus likes the beach once in a while, so we try to do that. And we also like to visit other people in other countries to find out how they live. We also like to, me in particular, I like to taste some of the foods in different countries. I love food. So again, it's nice to be at the North Pole. Okay, I've got another recorded question, I think, from somebody. What is that question? Let's hear it.
Santa, what's your favorite animal?
What is my favorite animal? Well, I guess people might say I'm prejudiced, or my favorite is my reindeer. Now, I have my pets. I have my dogs, my huskies, and I have my Newfoundlands and stuff like that. But I have the most fantastic team of reindeer, all 9 in the main team. And they're like family. If you have a little dog or a cat at home, isn't that your pet? And aren't they like part of your family? Well, my reindeer are like family too. I love them all. They're great support. They take care of me. They get me around the world all in one night. And so I love them very much. So I have to say my favorite animal is a reindeer. Oh, those were great letters. Wow. I want you to keep on sending those in. Remember, santaasapodcast.com, and because we love letters and questions, and I love them. I love hearing from you. I love hearing what you want to know about. Right now, I think it's time that we check the spirit meter and your jolly good deed for the week. We're going to talk about that. But remember last week I asked you to write a secret letter, and give that letter to someone, maybe to a parent or a family member or the fireman or the mailman or something like that. And I know I saw some of you write your letters and give those out, and I think that was very, very, very special. Thank you. Okay, and right now it's time for us to check in on that spirit meter. So let's go now and check the spirit meter for this week. Wow, that's great. Let's keep it going. Let's boost our spirit meter so that it gets way, way high with lots of jolly good deeds and things like that. Every week we want you to do some sort of jolly good deed. Last year it was the letter, so now this week, let's see what we can do. Let someone go first. Now, you're wondering, what does that mean? That means if you're in line, maybe you let someone go ahead of you. Okay? Or if two of you arrive at the same doorway at the same time, you stop and let the other person go first. It's courtesy. It's very respectful to do something like that. There are we know in school we learn how to, reading and writing and arithmetic and things like that. But sometimes learning about courtesy and being nice to other people is also one of the things we all need to learn. And you can do that. So when you're in line for a game or at the doorway, or maybe you're in line at the ice cream parlor, and you see somebody needs to go ahead of you, let them go ahead. It's being courteous. It's wonderful. And guess what? That boosts you on the spirit meter, and the spirit meter goes higher. And I love it when you do stuff like that. So can you try that? Now, I hear our spirit meter already going up. That is fantastic, because you're thinking about doing things that are wonderful. And sometimes you don't always get to let someone get in front of you first. But if you think about doing it, sometimes that helps the meter a little bit too. So keep those good thoughts in mind that you're going to do good things for other people, okay? Well, my merry pals, that's all there is for today. But before we say goodbye, it's time to do one last thing. And that is this week's riddle, okay? And I think we got a good one this week. And see if you can crack it or figure out the answer to this riddle, okay? Now, you don't have to tell me right now, because I'm not going to actually tell you the answer until next week. But in the meantime, I want you to listen to the riddle. Here it is. I wear a cap, and I travel far. I fly at night, no plane or car. I bring you cheer when you're asleep. What am I? Okay, I'm going to repeat that again to you. Here we go. I wear a cap and I travel far. I fly at night. No plane, no car. I bring you cheer while you're asleep. What am I? If you know the answer, I want you to think about it. But if you know the answer, keep it to yourself. And next week when we come back, we'll be able to give you the answer and see if you're right. Well, that's it for now, but I want you to keep being kind. Keep asking those great questions. I love hearing from you, all the questions you have. And until next time, remember, this is Santa Has a Podcast, and I'm always watching you, okay? Ho, 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 and Merry Christmas!
Santa's coming to town.